Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Brendan, and did you know that Genesis owes over $3.5 billion to their top 50 creditors alone? Now, on top of this, the CEO of FTX, John Ray, is claiming that the exchange could simply just restart after everything that's happened, and this has caused the FTT token to jump by more than 35%. Now, while all this is happening, Bitcoin is struggling at a key resistance level, and I want to make sure that we go over all this in today's video so that everyone is caught up to speed on everything that is happening in cryptocurrency right now. So if this sounds interesting, make sure you stick around for the entire length of the video, as there will be important information discussed all the way through. So let's talk about this, because I want everyone to know, who are these creditors? Who are these big players, and how much are they owed from Genesis? So if you aren't familiar already, Genesis filed for bankruptcy. Believe it was late yesterday, actually. And so when this came out, there was a lot of questions that still need to be answered. And so now that some of this data is starting to come to the spotlight, we now know that they owe over $3.5 billion, and this is only to their top 50 creditors, and they have over 100,000 creditors in total. So let's look at the numbers, let's look at the names that are involved with this, and let's begin here. Now, obviously, Gemini is one of the big players here. We have known this for a while. There's been a big back and forth between Gemini and Genesis saying, hey, you owe us money, and Genesis kind of being like, oh, well, we kind of do, we kind of don't. And so there's been a big back and forth between these two players. But what we can see now is that Gemini is certainly not alone throughout this process. So let's really focus here on this paragraph, because from here down is all the information that we need, and pretty much from here up is just a lot of fluff, and it's just reiterated. So let's read through this. It says, amongst its creditors are the names that would be familiar to observers in the crypto industry. Genesis owes Gemini Trust Company around $766 million. It owes Cumberland DRW $18.7 million. It owes Marana $151.5 million. Moon Alpha Finance is owed around $150 million. And Van Eck is owed around $53 million. There's also an additional unknown creditor that's owed $462 million, and another unknown creditor that's owed $230 million. So the list just continues to go on. It also says that a company called Haliva International Corp is owed $55 million, and they even list Decentraland's chief financial officer, Espinada, as a contact point. So it's not looking too great here for Genesis, and it's certainly not looking good for a lot of the companies that are attached to it. If you remember, it's kind of like the Celsius and Voyager-esque situation, where one big group goes under and they owed a lot of people just large amounts of money. And so if they're not able to make their payments, this could have a domino effect, kind of like what we saw, ironically, in spring of last year. Which happened really just a couple months after where we are at right now. So it was about 10 months ago. And so what's the significance of this? Well, again, be aware. If you see that these platforms are owed significant amounts of money and you're able to get funds off, I can't tell you what to do with your money. But if there is smoke, well, there's probably fire as well. There's probably a fire causing the smoke. So if you're on the fence of saying, hey, are these things even still safe anymore? I think it's better to be safe than sorry. Again, I can't tell you where to move your money, where to put it off of, but I know for me personally here, I would not want to be anywhere near any of these platforms that are owed significant amounts of money, because in a worst case scenario, they never get it back, and then all of a sudden I could have some of my funds frozen as well. So there's been a lot of people walking around saying, is Gemini still safe? Are all these other platforms still safe? If you don't have some of your cryptocurrency in some sort of a private wallet, doesn't matter if it's a hard wallet, a cold wallet, a soft wallet, doesn't matter. If you don't have at least a little bit in there, I think that you are leaving yourself prone to a little bit of risk. There's risk that comes with everything, but obviously, if last year has told us anything, that is that these centralized platforms that are custodial for us, they really can't be trusted nearly as much as we thought that they could. A lot of the platforms that we thought were just too big to fail either got in trouble with the SEC or they went under. And there's still a lot of great ones that are around, but I think that the trust in these centralized platforms are slowly shifting away, and people are realizing that cryptocurrency was never meant to be stored centrally, and that there's issues that can come along with that. This kind of just goes into the total bankruptcy filing as well for Genesis. So if you want to read more on that, there's a bunch of articles on it at the moment. So let's talk about what's happening with FTX here, because this is the alleged comeback that I don't think anyone saw coming, right? Because essentially John Ray is claiming that the exchange could simply just restart after everything that's happened. He even said that everything is on the table, and if there is a path forward on that, then we will not explore that. Or we will not only explore that, we'll do it. So what does this mean? Well, I think that it's still very highly unlikely that FTX will ever restart. I think if it does, it sets a horrible precedent, and no one that's serious in crypto, with the exception of Kevin O'Leary and Mr. Wonderful, will probably ever put their money there again. It just wouldn't make sense. There's better alternatives. There's people with better track records. I think that even if they do restart, they have lost the trust of 99% of the people. Maybe I'm wrong. If you would still put your money into FTX after this whole situation, then leave me a comment in the comment section down below. And I'm willing to be curious if there's people still out there. Now, FTT on the other hand, went on an absolute ripping yesterday. It opened up at 183 and leapt to a high of 251. So let's take a look at that chart. Let's take a look at really all the charts here and see what in the world is happening. So if we go to FTT to the US dollar, we'll go ahead and look at it on, that's the wrong exchange. FTT to the USD. We'll look at it over here. We'll see exactly what's happening over here. So if we go to log and auto, we can see the nice little uptrend that it has been in this year. And yesterday, this was the big move that we saw, where it leapt all the way down from around 175 yesterday, went all the way up to around 250, and that was almost a 50% move yesterday alone. So obviously, this token is going to be extremely volatile. I have an odd feeling that it's going to end up being like the Celsius token or the Luna token, where it's fallen a lot, and I'm just not sure it's going to be able to recover to its former glory. I, for one, would be shocked if it is able to recover to its former glory. This thing has just so much bad connotation attached to it. I just don't think a lot of people really want to go near this asset at the moment, and there's definitely a lot of risk that's involved with putting money anywhere near this thing. Now, obviously, if they do somehow pull off a miracle and recover, then it'll be like the greatest comeback story ever, and it'll have a super high reward zone. But with that super high reward, you get a ridiculously high risk. So let's talk about Bitcoin, because on Bitcoin's chart, I said that Bitcoin was struggling with a big area of resistance, and with this big area of resistance, it's a pretty familiar one. I think we've already talked about this a little bit on the channel, but Bitcoin is struggling at one of its previous tops right now, and it has been doing this for a couple of days. We came up here, we've tested this for almost a week now, fell back down, and I actually want to measure this out. Bitcoin pierced above here, fell all the way back down about 5 to 6%, and then since then it has come back and then started rallying up back towards this upper resistance area again. So what are the likely scenarios here? Well, if Bitcoin can get beyond this point, it's going to be in a really, really nice spot. And we'll talk about the significance of that probably once we get closer to doing it. But Bitcoin doesn't have too much more resistance here, maybe a little bit around 22.7 to 23,000 right in here, because we have a couple of tops. But the big resistance is going to be closer to like 25,000. And I've been seeing people throw around this number as to really this is the zone that they think Bitcoin will end towards the end of this year. Now, obviously, we could see a lot of fluctuation until then because we aren't even finished with January yet. But this is a zone that people are saying that they think Bitcoin can end the year at. Now, personally, I think that this is a great number. I think it's also possible for Bitcoin to finish higher, but I still think it's going to be a pretty wild ride of a year. So people are going to have to kind of remember that. It's not going to be a smooth sailing year from here. At least I don't think so. I certainly hope so. But I think that the outcome is, probably less likely. There's still just too many fires that haven't been put out in the traditional world. While crypto is recovering extremely fast, the traditional world is in shambles, and I don't think the two are completely correlated anymore, but there is a little bit of correlation to where people just don't have the financial security that they had previously, and that means that they're going to be less willing to risk larger amounts of money. So are they perfectly correlated? Absolutely not, especially not anymore. But there is some sort of correlation to be made when mass layoffs are happening because people are just going to invest less money. It's just the reality of the situation. So what do I think about Bitcoin over here? Well, I think that Bitcoin could definitely come back down to this 200-day moving average. I really want to see how it reacts to that. But the big area to keep an eye on right now is Bitcoin kind of consolidating in between this resistance at around $21,500 towards the top side, and then around maybe $19,500 towards the bottom side. So this $2,000 range over here on Bitcoin is the zone that we want to be keeping a very close eye on to see how it's reacting to these levels and if a breakout can occur, or even a breakdown if we break out of either one of these levels. But that's going to round us up for today's video, everyone. I hope all of you did enjoy, and if you did, make sure you smack that like button, smack that subscribe button, because we are putting out content just like this one every single week, multiple times a week. So if you want to stay updated with everything that's happening in crypto, this is going to be your #1 place to do it. But again, thank all of you for watching, and I will see all of you in the next video.